Before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out to all of these wonderful people for the amazing mods they created that you will be seeing throughout this video. You all have certainly made this game more tolerable to play than if they weren't. Be sure to check them out and show them your support if you haven't already. Links will be in the description below. Picture the cringe right now. Resident Evil 3 make. You know, when I make these videos, I secretly hope that game developers will prove me wrong, even if it's just out of spite. Now, watch them skip Code Veronica and go straight to a Resident Evil 4 remake. Oh, yeah, of course you would. Side note, I wrote that joke in my script 2 months before this game released. You really need to step up your game, Capcom. At this point, you're just embarrassing yourselves with how many W's you're giving me. Let's put this in perspective, shall we? In 1999, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis released. It was created on a limited budget with limited time and limited technology, and yet it still ranks among the best games in the Resident Evil franchise. It featured life selection, new gameplay mechanics, ammo crafting, a wide variety of enemies, intricate puzzles, a new bonus mode, a fully explorable Raccoon City, and of course, the most iconic monster in this series, Nemesis. In 2020, the Resident Evil 3 remake released. It was created on a moderate to high budget with a sizable development cycle and with high-end technology, only for it to become nothing more than a hollow husk of what Resident Evil 3 used to be, stripping away almost every aspect that made it unique. Has the Capcom work ethic been spoiled over the years? Because you wouldn't have to try too hard to convince me.
This pandemic has spread faster than any disease in modern history.
Cherish this moment, ladies and gentlemen, for the gaming gods have once again blessed us with their immaculate humor and impeccable timing. If they return more often, we could finally obtain our front row tickets to the end of humanity. It's not bad enough that you included live action footage in a video game, but you featured stock footage of riots that don't properly convey the fact that there's a viral outbreak. There's nobody wearing masks, no hospitals being filled to max capacity, nobody mutating, or zombies overrunning the streets. The original Resident Evil 3 had an excellent opening, with law enforcement and the UBCS being overwhelmed by zombies, which clearly showed you Raccoon City was collapsing at a rapid rate. Jesus, you can't even get your opening right, game. This is one of many red flags telling me that you don't know what the hell you're doing with this remake. There's Raccoon City in the background, once again becoming much bigger with each interpretation. Strange how this supposedly small Midwestern town becomes more and more of a full-blown metropolis with each new installment of this series. Well, this is interesting. A first-person point of view inside of a dream sequence fake-out. How amusing. You guys are finally starting to switch up your tactics. Doesn't change the fact that I can see right through your deception. We've already seen gameplay footage in a third-person perspective. The game should have taken cues from its own demo and not make the bait so obvious. It's cool that Jill is depicted of suffering from PTSD during her time at the Spencer Mansion. Too bad the game didn't fully commit to fleshing it out. The Sphere Hunter made an excellent suggestion when reviewing this game by proposing a lengthy dream sequence of Jill solving some puzzles at the clock tower after the subway gets derailed. That way, you could play up the PTSD angle while also giving us some extra gameplay, puzzles, and another Nemesis chase sequence before we get to the real world sequence where Jill recovers. But, you know, that's just an idea from someone who actually cares about Resident Evil 3.
3 more days. Then I can kiss this town goodbye.
Oh, so Jill is basically 2 days from retirement. You might as well be tap dancing in the streets of New York during the Great Depression if you're going to be using tropes that old. Jill makes a note that even though she's had minor sleeping difficulties, she's still in pretty good shape. Yet if you explore her apartment, you'll notice that she's been eating and drinking nothing but pizza, soup, beer, donuts, bread, wine, milk, and soda, and she still remains fit. Forget the T-virus vaccine. Umbrella should have captured Jill for their genetic engineering program, because she has the kind of metabolism that would cure most diseases. How unfortunate that Jill has officially become part of the generic tank top and jeans combo bad girls club, when she was already in a club of her own. One of the many reasons why Jill is so beloved is because of her fashion sense. She has some of the most stylish outfits of the entire series. I know this is going to come as a shock to some of you, but I'm not some boomer gamer who is always opposed to change. Hell, these leather jackets jacket mods are some of my favorite mods of this game, and I honestly wouldn't have minded if either one of them was the default option. It's just that if you're going to replace an already iconic outfit, you better make damn sure you design one that's just as memorable. And if you honestly believe I'm just being pedantic about a simple style change, I'll tell you what. The next time Leon makes an appearance in another Resident Evil game, let's give him a bowl cut while wearing a lavender hoodie, and I better not see any of you complain about it. Cause if you do, you can expect me to say, ha ha, fuck you, you just proved you're a hypocrite. I win, bye bye. Speaking of looks, the new model for Jill, Sasha Zatova, is fine on her own in real life. It's just that I would have preferred she play a new original character instead of Jill. And let me just clarify something right now, cause I know a lot of people are gonna be under the assumption that I'm only saying that because I think Sasha is ugly, which of course is bullshit. She absolutely is not. She's a very attractive woman. It's just that in my opinion, Julia Voth is the real Jill Valentine. The same way that David Hayter will always be the true voice of Solid Snake, the same way that Dan Southworth will always be the true voice of Virgil, the same way that Allison Court will always be the true voice of Claire Redfield, Julia Voth was, is, and always will be the true face of Jill Valentine. You have your preferences, and I have mine. Let's just leave it at that and get over it.
You gotta get out of there right now!
Alright, let me grab my...
Well, this is certainly a perfect representation of blowing your load too early. You see, one of the many reasons why Nemesis was so effective in the original was because of this little thing called, tension. Even though I pointed out in my previous video that Brad should have told Jill about Nemesis, that scene did an excellent job of informing you that there's a monster out there specifically targeting you that you haven't even met yet. Here, we're just giving Nemesis away as if he's taken his OnlyFans subscription way too far. Nemesis has ample time to kill Jill, but he decides to just toss her around like a rag doll. Guess there is still some shred of humanity left in him since he's really fond of this aggressive foreplay.
What the hell is that thing?
Okay, Nemesis, you literally just busted through a wall with the greatest of ease, but a simple apartment door is what stops you in your tracks. Get your baskets out, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be handing out a lot of L's today. Ladies and gentlemen, behold the true hero of this game, the mighty bookshelf. Tremble in its presence, for its strength can only be matched by the wooden pallet from The Last of Us. I'm seeing a bit too much Resident Evil 6 in this Resident Evil 3 remake, which I wouldn't mind too much if we actually got a longer game with more mechanical depth.
What was that thing?
Damned if I know. But right now it's got a hard-on for the only 2 stars left in town. You and me.
Lies have been detected, Brad. Nemesis is clearly only fixated on Jill, which, who could blame him? Based on what we're going to see in a few minutes, if he was targeting you, you'd already be dead.
I'm not sticking around.
I'm not going to stick around, so I'll just casually saunter like I don't have a care in the world, even though the city around me is in chaos.
How did this all happen so fast?
I was wondering that same thing. If you bothered to look out of Jill's apartment window before picking up the phone, you would have no indication that Raccoon City is collapsing. There's no fires, no alarms, no sirens, no sounds of vehicles crashing into each other, and no people screaming in the streets. It's only after Nemesis busts through the wall where everything becomes clear. Tossing a sign at a group of zombies. Brad Vickers, ladies and gentlemen, a guy who truly lives up to the term special tactics. Brad gets bitten by a random zombie and ends up dying off screen. You know what this means, right? Nemesis, the tyrant that is specifically designed to eliminate STARS members, never gets to kill any STARS members. Imagine taking a scene that established your main villain as a threat and changing it so that your main villain ends up not being much of a threat.
Come on, Jill. We know how this ends.
No, I don't.
Except you do? Are you suffering from CRS again, Jill? 'Cause the mansion incident occurred in this timeline. You survived it, and you know what happens when someone gets bit. Depending on the outfit you equip, Jill will go from being in a simple tank top and jeans to being fully equipped with a jacket and weapon holsters that were not on the police officer when she picked up the pistol. The reason why Dario was of some importance in the original Resident Evil 3 was because he was the first survivor Jill encountered. But in this game, she's already come in contact with Brad, so his significance here has been drastically decreased to where it's kind of pointless.
The only safe place is in here!
And that's all you'll get to see of Dario. Sure, you can exhaust a few conversations with him like you could in the original, but you'll never be able to backtrack to this area again. Hey, it's the upstairs office of the warehouse, and it's been completely blocked off from accessing it. Ladies and gentlemen, let this be a perfect representation of the game you are about to experience. If you thought I was going to ignore zombies being able to operate an elevator, you are sorely mistaken. This helicopter explodes for no reason. It wasn't shot down by Nemesis because he doesn't have his rocket launcher yet, and he's not seen wielding a weapon when he does appear. Also, what do you know? The helicopter scene from classic Resident Evil 3, one of the most important scenes of that game where we had been playing for hours and in the moment of triumph had it snatched away by Nemesis at the clock tower, was completely wasted here. No build-up, it wasn't earned, and it didn't even get shot down by Nemesis. We were robbed of a defining moment from the original game. See how all this game's problems get magnified tenfold when you keep comparing it to the original? This car Jill bumps up against was nowhere to be found before the helicopter crash. And that was Resident Evil 3, everyone. Thank you all for participating in this event. Just treat this game like Mass Effect 3. Turn back now to spare yourself an immense amount of disappointment. Hey, Capcom? 2012 was quite a while ago. You should have left this style of game design in that year. Jill must be drinking some Gumby juice that causes her spine to become elastic, cause that's the only explanation as to how she survives this fall. Alright, let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. When this game was first revealed, I made it very clear I was not a fan of the new Nemesis design. I took it as a warning sign that this game was gonna be a garbage remake. As usual, I am correct in my suspicions, and I was gonna use the Godfather "look at how they massacred my boy" meme as a joke. I didn't realize that Capcom would actually take that meme seriously and make almost a complete mockery of Nemesis. He gets insulted multiple times throughout this game. He is not treated as a threat. His design is an abomination, from the stupid face to the trash bag trench coat. Every single one of his encounters are more scripted than the original. He only has one legitimate chase sequence. He doesn't have the ability to enter save rooms, which is what I wanted to see in this remake. And there are numerous occasions where he has Jill dead to rights and he just tosses her aside because she's wearing the protagonist cloak. I really have to applaud you, Capcom. You managed to reach a new level of failure. You took the most iconic monster of this entire series and made him into a chump. I should have known better when Mr. X basically became Nemesis in the RE2 remake. Here's 20 sins for the massive amount of incompetence. Carlos must have activated a randomizer. He's using the quad launcher at the beginning of the game instead of the end. And he knows he's cheating because he immediately disposes of it instead of keeping it for future hostile encounters. Also, did you notice how Carlos was the one who incapacitated Nemesis? Let that be a warning sign that Carlos is going to be taking his fair share amount of glory away from Jill.
Hey, easy, lady. I got you.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Name's Carlos, and I'm saving you.
That's Jeff Shine, who voiced Javier in Season 3 of Telltale's The Walking Dead. He actually does a much better job at being Carlos than the original. But I still can't help but feel bad for the guy, since he always seems to find himself being stuck in mediocre zombie games.
We've been bringing survivors here.
Here where?
My guys have converted some subway cars into a shelter. It's safe.
Not entirely. While you are relatively safe underground, the doors for the subway cars remained opened, and is currently without electrical power. Meaning, if another horde of zombies stumble across here, you wouldn't be as safe as you think. Also, Raccoon City has a population of 100,000 people, which is the bare minimum an area needs to be considered a city. There is no way a city that small would have a subway system, regardless if it's the home of Umbrella. That's mainly reserved for major metropolitan areas with a population in the millions.
I'm with the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service. UBCS for short.
Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You guys are the ones who caused all of this.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you talking about?
Jill, you don't have an excuse this time. Nemesis is currently immobilized. Now is the perfect time to explain to Carlos everything that went down at the Spencer Mansion and why you don't trust Umbrella. God knows this game could use more content as well as context. Pay close attention at how fast Carlos is running in this scene. He won't be able to do so once you control him.
You didn't even think to ask fine young lady her name? She is an elite operative of RPD, Special Tactics and Rescue Service. Her name is something Valentine.
I mean, if you have that much detailed information about Jill, I would think you would at least know her full name. You even mentioned later that her reputation is well deserved, which would presume you know a bit about her.
My team was sent here to rescue civilians.
And just like the original, assuming your mission went according to plan, how exactly were you going to evacuate civilians when not all of them were going to fit inside your choppers?
The city is completely cut off, isolated.
Raccoon City is not on an island. You are trying to evacuate people out of the city, and later on, Tyrell tries to contact the government to call off the nuclear strike. So no, the city is not completely cut off or isolated as you claim.
My platoon has suffered serious losses.
Yeah, strange how we never get to actually see those losses this time. True Resident Evil 3 had an excellent opening that set the tone for itself, where it showed law enforcement, SWAT teams, and the UBCS being overwhelmed by the hordes of the undead, none of which was seen in this game. Guess that's what happens when you don't prioritize your resources.
Well, you can thank your corporate overlords for that.
That is some 2020 Tumblr-esque writing that I did not want nor need to hear in this game that is set in 1998.
If we can get this subway train moving, we can evacuate some survivors.
Well, it'd be a shame if we didn't have a fuse, some mixed oil, and power cables to get the train started again. Oh, we just need to reactivate the power from the substation. Well, there goes your puzzle potential.
But we need help. My men cannot do this alone.
That's because you all don't have main character status on your bingo cards.
Here you go. We can use this to stay in contact.
I'm not sure why you're giving Jill a radio, Carlos. She already had one on her before we entered the subway. That's a first aid spray Carlos is using on Mikhail, which completely heals all wounds in-game. Yet Mikhail will still be wounded until the plot says otherwise. Game brings back the ammo crafting system from the original, but completely eliminates the ability to craft enhanced handgun and shotgun ammo.
Jill? It's me again. You topside yet?
Dude, it has literally been 15 seconds since Jill left the subway. There's no need to be acting like a psychotic obsessive boyfriend. That's how pussy dries up real quick. Well, look at that. Seems like the Master of Unlocking once again needs a lockpick to open anything, and once again doesn't have a lockpick on her to begin with. You're starting to tarnish your reputation, Jill. The reloading tool, which was a standard item Jill had equipped in the original, is now a shop item you'll need to purchase if you want to obtain it. Imagine how much more pissed you would have been if this was paid DLC. Can I get the real Stars uniform, please? Much better! May you modders be blessed, for you certainly care more about RE3 than Capcom. These people are the only other survivors you will come across, and if you look in the direction they ran, you'll realize it's been blocked off by body bags, barricades, and vehicles, and you, the player, will never get to explore said areas. The infamous dodge roll makes its return, and it's so much better than the original. It still has its goofs from time to time, but it still offers the mechanical depth this game needed to be more enjoyable to play. The one aspect this remake needed to get right was the exploration of Raccoon City, and Capcom completely dropped the ball. Throughout this entire game, the only parts of Raccoon City we can explore are this main street, this tiny toy shop, this tiny grocery store, these steps, this donut shop, this main street, this tiny alley that leads nowhere, this pharmacy, this subway office, this small walkway, this repair shop, this alleyway, and the substation, all within a small distance of each other and with no option to backtrack to the locations from the beginning. Meanwhile, in the original, we could explore the warehouse, the business street, the wooden walkway, the residential street, the private backyard, the back alleys, Jack's Bar, the barricaded alley, the bookshop street, a good portion of the RPD, the zigzag alley, the crashed bus, the car shop, the construction street, the maintenance area, the restaurant with the flooded basement, the shopping district, Main Street, the water feature area, the newspaper office, City Hall, the gas station and its shop, Lonsdale Yard, the cable car and its surrounding area, the substation with the street that leads to it, the dark alley where you need to use the fire hose, and the sales office that also has a storeroom. And that was all before we fixed the cable car. Imagine having over 20 years to improve an old product, only to fail tremendously by creating a more condensed, weaker product. Makes one wonder why you even bothered to begin with.
Carlos, I've reached the main avenue. Which way do I go?
Jill, you literally had a map of Raccoon City in your apartment, and it's your hometown. You should already know the layout and where to go. Umbrella clearly forgot to cease production on their cloning technology because all 6 of these zombies look exactly the same. What a magnificent reuse of assets. Somebody didn't get to finish their box of donuts. That's a sin in any universe.
Come on, don't look at me like that, alright? I'm not infected.
Let's take
No, wait, please!
He was infected.
He might have been infected.
Oh, stars, this soft. No wonder so many of you dead.
This is literally your first time meeting Jill, and you don't have any files on her yet. So there's no reason why you should be aware of her identity or what task force she was a part of. You only find out how valuable she is later on when she has hostile encounters with Nemesis. And if you already knew who she was, you shouldn't be questioning her abilities.
He would have turned. There's your sense of self-preservation.
Jill is a member of STAR's Alpha team and one of the only survivors of the mansion incident. I think it's pretty safe to say she already has a sense of self-preservation. The management of the substation actually thought it was a good idea to intentionally cause a power outage, as if that's gonna help anybody and not make things much worse. The inventory system is pretty inconsistent. You can combine herbs and ammo if your inventory is full when you pick them up, but you won't be able to place ammo in a weapon to make room for the other items. And it becomes even worse when you get the grenade launcher, where you'll have 4 different ammo types cluttered together that you'll have to cycle through in order to equip them, instead of, simply replacing them like you could in the classic Resident Evil games. Capcom, there's already plenty of source filmmaker videos across the internet if I wanted to see Jill getting deep-throated. You are way behind on providing us with this type of content. In addition to healing wounds, the green herb acts as abortion medicine to get rid of parasites. For a major corporation, Umbrella sure is missing out on potential revenue by not mass-producing a drug like that. That makes 3 Resident Evil games in a row where the indestructible monster bursts through a wall in front of you. First it was Jack merely copying it from Mr. X in the original Resident Evil 2. Then Mr. X himself did it again in the RE2 remake. And now Nemesis in this game. You want to know what's the most disappointing aspect? That was our police station moment, minus the rocket launcher and the more tense buildup. Nemesis once again drops loot if you bother to fight him, except this time the rewards have been drastically decreased. There's no Eagle 6.0, even though there's a mod for it, no triple first aid spray, and no Western custom for you to acquire. There's only minor upgrades for your basic bitch Glock and a few shotgun rounds if you manage to down him before entering the sewer. I don't care how much you're trying to modernize for the new generation of gamers. When you're remaking a classic Resident Evil game, you damn well better have some decent puzzles that aren't gonna make me lose more brain cells than I already have. You wanna know some hilarious irony? One of the reasons why Resident Evil 4 is praised by so many people is because it was viewed as a breath of fresh air, introducing a new style to the series that was never seen before. And yet, every Resident Evil game since then has included one or more elements from it, oddly making the franchise feel more stale than it's ever been. Like I can't tell these parasite creatures are just dollar store Las Plagas enemies. They're only here to give an excuse as to why the RE4 remake should exist in the first place. It is rather amusing how the turning point of this series has led us to repeat the cycle once more.
We back in business?
Yeah, mostly. But we need 30 to 40 minutes to finish maintenance.
And during that time period, you will somehow manage to completely avoid Nemesis as he searches for Jill, even though the subway is currently stationary. But when said subway becomes operational and moves at a relatively high speed, Nemesis will manage to kill all the civilians aboard just to get to Jill.
Why is she here?
I mean, you are the one who told her to go back to the subway station.
Go back to the subway station. We don't need a bleeding heart like you getting in the way. It's time to start getting dead weight for.
Sorry, Nikolai, but Nero is nowhere to be found here. You gotta take 3 blocks north and turn right if you want to get to that other amazing Capcom franchise.
She's unreliable. Can't pull the trigger when it counts.
What's the matter, Jill? Are you gonna make the same mistake as you did in the original and not speak up for yourself when in the presence of UBCS mercenaries? Now is the perfect time to tell everyone that Nikolai killed Murphy in cold blood. For a game that's not even remotely trying to stay faithful to the original Resident Evil 3, it sure likes to maintain the same problems.
It's me he's after.
Hey.
I'll buy you some time.
Hey.
Look at this fucking hero, everyone. Needlessly using herself as bait for people she barely knows and so far has no reason to trust.
Come on, you creepy ass stalker. You want stars? I'll give you stars!
You're supposed to save that line for the end of the game! Of course there had to be a goddamn sewer level. All the locations cut from the original, and this is what you decide to keep? These goofy-ass memos. This one in particular. It basically says, boy, I sure hope you don't hurt my babies as I walk around revealing their weak points. This is one of those many instances where Nemesis has Jill dead to rights. He could have easily squashed her head like Mr. X did to Ben in the RE2 remake. I could forgive a scene like this if it happened once or twice, but since it constantly happens throughout the game, it removes any tension or threat that Nemesis could have posed. This burning building scene is supposed to be an intense chase sequence, yet Jill casually jogs like she's a few minutes late to her bartending job, which makes the scene look even more ridiculous. Capcom, are you sure you didn't import assets from the TurboGrafx when making this game? Kendo makes a cameo appearance in this game. This character, who was a creepy pervert towards Claire in the original Resident Evil 2 and died in that game's beginning, has been given a character overhaul. First as a sympathetic father in the RE2 remake, and here we learn he's acquainted with Jill and is the most well-respected gunsmith in town. I still think his daughter getting infected in the RE2 remake was a cheap way to get an emotional reaction, but I'll still give credit for at least putting in the effort to making him a better character. This is the only time you'll get to see Nemesis wielding his signature rocket launcher. The same rocket launcher he chased you through over half the original game is now relegated to this one section, and never seen again. Jill is amazing, but there's only so much nonsense one can tolerate before calling out ridiculousness. That was a rocket exploding point blank near her feet, and she just walks it off like it's a minor flesh wound. What's worse is that when you recover and turn back to the location where Nemesis shot you, he completely disappears, like he's not programmed to confirm the kill when eliminating STARS members is his purpose. I mean, might as well be running away from the boulder at this point. Nemesis must have spent too much time with Spider-Man in Marvel vs. Capcom, cause I'm not sure how else he's able to tentacle swing his way into the heavens. Haha, my rocket launcher is better than yours. Carlos's big plan was to use the mine to temporarily immobilize Nemesis. Strange how the UBCS didn't use this same tactic to trick hordes of zombies into certain areas and eliminate them all at once.
Carlos, I know we didn't get off to a great start, but thanks for the save.
Hey, you saved my ass first.
I distinctly remember Carlos saving Jill first when he used the quad launcher against Nemesis at the beginning of this game. So Carlos technically is the first one to do the saving.
Let's go.
Wait, who the hell is Mikhail talking to? The only remaining UBCS members left alive are himself, Carlos, Tyrell, and Nikolai. Carlos and Tyrell are off on their own mission, Nikolai and Mikhail are in the passenger car with Jill, and the civilians are in the rear car. So who's operating the subway? While Nemesis has demonstrated considerable speed, this subway is moving fairly fast, and a decent amount of time has passed since it started moving. Yet he somehow manages to catch up to the subway and eliminate the civilians. He's not Sonic the Hedgehog, you know.
Get off my train. Shitbird!
Cool moment and all, but where did you get that bomb from? It was nowhere to be found before we left the subway station, and it wouldn't make sense to be carrying a bomb in the first place if your goal was to evacuate the civilians. How the hell did Brad get into the main entrance of the RPD? The main gate is closed off, and the east door where he appears from is boarded up. Wow, that was a rather major lore-breaking moment we just witnessed. Brad has technically turned into a zombie, yet he's still able to speak? Marvin continues to use his special vanishing technique because you never see him again once you enter the RPD. Even though all the doors are locked with the spade key, the emblems haven't been found to go into the underground facility, and the east hallway has been sealed off. We've entered into a time paradox. This is the west office of the RPD, where you can get a hip pouch inside a safe in the RE2 remake. However, Carlos can obtain the exact same hip pouch for himself using the exact same combination, and this part of Resident Evil 3 takes place before Resident Evil 2. You want to talk about disappointments? It doesn't get any worse than this. So check this out. When you play the RE2 remake early on, you'll come across a wall on the third floor that's been busted through, and the locker room where you need to get the valve handle turns out to have a giant hole in the wall. And if you're like me, you thought to yourself, oh man, Resident Evil 3 takes place before this. Jill has already been chased by Nemesis throughout the police station. If they do an RE3 remake, I can't wait to see this happen. And then said remake released, and it was just Carlos needing to find a battery for an explosive, and the third floor wall remained intact. This is so absurdly disappointing that it deserves 10 sins.
Carlos, I've hit a dead end with the terminal here. Gotta head your way.
How does Tyrell make his way to the STARS office when the steam from the pipe blocks off access, and the door at the end of the west hallway is barricaded by furniture? The whole point of this Carlos RPD section was to look for Bard, who ends up being located at the hospital. The game tries to cover its ass by having Tyrell say that if their intel is still worth a damn, then Bard's in the STARS office. However, Tyrell is a communications expert and a skilled hacker. He should have known that Bard was sending his signal from the hospital this entire time. Heh! I guess we're going to be repeating more mistakes from the original by having Jill miraculously survive the subway getting derailed where she would have gotten seriously injured or killed. Oh, sweet! They actually included freeze rounds, and they turn out to be mine rounds, which will serve as this game's gimmicky boss fight ammo. Hello there, Clock Tower. Let us treasure this moment, for this is the only time we'll ever get to spend with each other. Imagine having so little confidence in your version of Nemesis that you make him mutate into a xenomorph Bloodborne boss halfway through the game. Nemesis, the monster that was in humanoid form for nearly the entire original game up until the end, and he mutates into an animalistic form with seemingly no more higher brain function like he should have. Nemesis, you amateur. This is not the way Jill prefers to be eaten out. Oh my goodness, Jill actually defeated Nemesis. I'm sure he'll actually stay down and we get to explore the clock tower to... Oh, there he goes. So wait, Nemesis can take a quad launcher shell, a point-blank C4 explosion, a gas tanker explosion, and multiple grenade rounds and still have his body intact. But the clock tower plaza gate is what severs his arm off? Well then, I wasn't aware that the T-Virus also acted as a sedative, given how quickly Jill collapses as soon as Nemesis infects her. Nikolai must have shopped at the same store where Jill gets her plot armor, because he too survives the subway crash even though he was also aborted.
Interest. You've done me a big favor, Miss.
Yes, the big favor you would have completely missed out on had the subway not been derailed. I don't know what's more sinful, the fact that it takes Carlos half a day to find Jill, the fact that Nemesis recovered and once again didn't stick around to confirm his kill, the fact that no zombies stumble across Jill and eat her, or the fact that there's no playable Jill hallucination sequence to pass the time before Carlos arrives so that we actually have more content for this game. Fuck it, let's just send all 4 of them.
Fight it, Jill.
That's not how this works, dumbass. Viruses will not go away just because you want them to. Only one zombie will appear once you get to the emergency entrance, but when you obtain the cassette tape with Dr. Bard's voice, 3 more will randomly spawn before they break the glass. Only in video games does a safe combination only require 2 numbers to open.
Of course I have connections higher up. Of course the military consults with me on projects beyond your comprehension.
Of course I would be a stupid cartoony villain revealing secrets that really shouldn't be heard by anybody who isn't in my circle of powerful friends. When Carlos enters Bard's laboratory, he finds Bard shot and killed by who is all but confirmed to be Nikolai. For a guy who was so paranoid about Umbrella sending agents to assassinate him, Bard sure didn't take every precaution necessary to prevent that from happening. He never found a way to arm himself, he relies too much on his senator friend to help him out, he left a tape player out in the lobby as well as a cassette tape with his voice on it that would allow anyone to enter his laboratory like Carlos did, and he never used what he could inside said laboratory to board up the windows to prevent anybody from entering.
My employer, the Umbrella Corporation, engineered this virus. And they ordered my team to develop a vaccine, which we did.
Umbrella engineered the T-Virus and then ordered a vaccine to be created. You would think this is a typical corporate MO of creating the problem and then selling the solution. However, Umbrella's true goal was always to create bioweapons and then sell them to militaries across the world. This is literally the exact same mistake as the original. The vaccine is already created and has been underground this entire time. Yet it was never distributed despite a viral outbreak.
Fuck!
If your security is so fragile that your password is fuck, it's a miracle how your systems haven't been hacked already. Well, look at you, Umbrella, you kinky bastards. Wasn't aware you created vaccines using vibrator fluid.